What if someone you dismissed every day had the power to destroy everything you've built? At Harrington and Company, the boardroom was filled with executives dressed in sharp suits, exuding power and confidence, while the unseen workers, like Annabelle Grant, went unnoticed, overlooked by those at the top. But soon, the people at the helm of the company would realize that the ones they deemed insignificant could bring their empire crumbling down. Located in the heart of Silicon Valley, Harrington and Company was a consulting firm that specialized in guiding startups to success. Its sleek modern offices sat amidst towering glass buildings, housing some of the most powerful players in the tech world. Known for its high-profile clients and enormous contracts, the firm attracted the brightest minds in the industry. But for those at the lower rungs, such as the custodians and office assistants, they were treated like faceless tools, nothing more than background noise. Annabelle Grant was one of those overlooked employees. She had recently taken up a janitorial role at Harrington and Company, wearing the standard uniform of dark green with her hair tucked neatly under a cap. Pushing a cleaning cart along the hallways, Annabelle faded into the shadows, unnoticed by almost everyone. To the senior executives, she was invisible, just another worker performing menial tasks. But Annabelle had a secret no one could have imagined. She was, in fact, the founder and largest shareholder of Harrington and Company. Years ago, after the company had gained its foothold in the market, Annabelle had stepped aside, handing over the day-to-day operations to her cousin Greg Parker, who had taken on the role of CEO. Due to her health struggles, Annabelle had quietly retreated from the spotlight, watching from afar. But now, her health had improved, and she was ready to see if the company she had built was still operating with the integrity it once held. It soon became clear to her that many of the company's top leaders had lost their way. To make things right, Annabelle knew she needed to act, though she couldn't reveal herself just yet. She had to uncover just how deep the corruption ran. Every day, Annabelle followed the same routine. She arrived early, well before the office came to life, and began her rounds. As she scrubbed floors and emptied trash bins, she kept a watchful eye on the business she had created. The grand executive offices and vast conference rooms stood in stark contrast to her modest cleaning cart, but she was invisible to those who walked past her. Her focus, however, was not on the sparkling floors or spotless windows, but on the people who walked through them. One individual in particular caught her attention: Daniel Westbrook, the CEO of Harrington and Company. He was tall, sharply dressed, and carried himself with an air of arrogance. With every step he took, Daniel radiated entitlement, treating everyone beneath him, whether it was a junior consultant, a receptionist, or a janitor like Annabelle, as if they were invisible. His disregard for those lower on the corporate ladder didn't go unnoticed. Then there was Emily Foster, the chief operations officer, who shared Daniel's sense of superiority. She often made cutting remarks about the inferior staff, dismissing them as obstacles to her ambitions. One morning, as Annabelle worked near their offices, she overheard a conversation between Daniel and Emily. Unaware that they were being listened to, their words cut through the air. "I don't know why we're still paying these custodians," Emily said, her voice tinged with disdain. "They don't even do a proper job. It's embarrassing for a company like ours." Daniel chuckled. "They're lucky to have a job at all. What else could they do? We could always find someone else." Annabelle felt a knot form in her stomach. She had anticipated this kind of attitude, but hearing it spoken so plainly struck her to the core. The company she had founded with blood, sweat, and tears had become a playground for people who treated others with such contempt. It was clear now she had to take action, but not yet. She needed to learn more, gather evidence of how far the corruption extended. As time passed, Annabelle's frustration grew. It wasn't just Daniel's arrogance that bothered her. It was how he demeaned everyone around him, especially those in lower positions. His treatment of employees was creating a toxic atmosphere, one where fear replaced teamwork. Annabelle began noticing his behavior toward her, and what had initially felt like mere indifference soon turned into something far darker: harassment. One afternoon, as Annabelle was wiping down a conference room floor, Daniel strolled past her. He stopped suddenly, eyeing her from head to toe with a sly smile creeping across his face. "Hey, Annabelle," he said, his voice dripping with superiority. "You know, you could do a better job around here. Maybe if you were as polished as this office, people would take you more seriously." Annabelle froze. The remark wasn't just an insult to her work. It was a personal jab meant to belittle and objectify her. She forced a smile, trying to mask her disgust. "Apologies, Daniel. I'll be more thorough next time," she replied, her voice steady despite the rage building inside her. But Daniel wasn't done. He moved closer, his presence looming over her. "You know," he continued, lowering his voice to a whisper, "someone like you shouldn't be cleaning up after us. I could get you a better position here. If you'd only cooperate." Annabelle's heart raced. His words were more than inappropriate. They were manipulative. He was using his position to threaten her, to control her. She didn't want to show him her anger, but inside, her resolve hardened. "I'm happy where I am. Thank you," she said, keeping her composure despite her inner turmoil. Daniel smirked, clearly amused by the power he had over her. He patted her on the back in a way that felt more possessive than professional. Annabelle clenched her jaw, knowing she couldn't let this go on any longer. But for now, she had to wait. Her moment would come. Days passed, and Daniel's harassment escalated. One evening, as Annabelle finished her shift and prepared to leave, Daniel intercepted her in the parking garage. The air felt heavy with tension as he stood too close, blocking her path. "Annabelle," he said, his voice low and predatory, "you've been working hard lately. Maybe you deserve something more than this job. There's room for you here, but you have to be willing to work with me." Annabelle's stomach turned. His words were not subtle. He was threatening her, implying that her job was on the line unless she gave in. He stepped closer, his breath warm on her neck. "If you don't play along, I can make sure you're out of here," he whispered. "You won't find another job with your experience, but I could help you. If you just cooperate." Annabelle's mind raced. She had heard enough. This was the moment to make a stand. She looked him dead in the eye, her voice steady and unyielding. "Daniel, if you don't stop right now, you'll regret it," she said, her tone colder than she had ever felt. Daniel's smirk faltered, his arrogance slipping away as her words hit home. "What do you mean by that?" he asked, taken aback. "You've crossed the line," Annabelle replied firmly. "And if you try anything again, I'll make sure you never work in this company or anywhere else again." For a moment, Daniel was silent, stunned by her unshakable resolve. Annabelle turned on her heel and walked away, knowing that she had just set the stage for what was coming next. The time for patience had ended. It was time to take back control. The next morning, Annabelle entered the office, no longer as a janitor, but as the CEO. She was dressed in a tailored suit, her hair styled neatly, her presence radiating authority. As she walked through the lobby, employees who had once ignored her now watched in stunned silence. Daniel and Emily were sitting in the boardroom when they noticed her enter. At first, they didn't recognize her, but as she moved to the head of the table, standing beside her cousin Greg, their jaws dropped in shock. "This is my company," Annabelle said, her voice unwavering. "I've been watching all of you for a long time, and it's time you learned how to treat the people who truly make this company run." Daniel's face went pale as the realization hit. Emily stared in disbelief, but neither of them spoke. They could only watch as Annabelle's presence filled the room with power. From that moment on, Harrington and Company would never be the same. In the end, Annabelle proved that power isn't just about titles or appearances. It's about integrity, resilience, and the courage to stand up when the time comes. Harrington and Company would never again be a place where the unseen went unnoticed, and respect would be restored, one action at a time.